Kevin Hart broke your stand-up box office record.
What record did he break?
He said he broke some record of your box office sales for stand-up.
I don't know. What did he break?
In 15 years in Hollywood, no one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show, there being a line for him ever getting a standing ovation at any comedy club. See, I seen your stuff on social media, boy, I know what you do, but you do it for play.
Eddie Murphy just revealed why Kevin Hart is scared of Katt Williams. Katt Williams has been dropping hints about Kevin for years. Now, Murphy's backing him up.
When are we, or are we ever going to see you on stage again doing stand-up?
I'm going to do it again because I got to break Kevin's new record. I got to get back on the stage because this new record that Kevin got, I got to have it back, Kevin.
From Katt calling Kevin an industry plant.
What do you think a plant is? Maybe people don't understand the definitions of these words.
To Kevin dodging Katt's challenge for a comedy face-off.
I got a show at your hometown in Philly. I'm gonna take my special there. On that stage, we can put whatever you want. A full court basketball court, a boxing ring.
Why is he so afraid of one comedian? Let's find out. For a long time, Eddie Murphy stayed quiet. He didn't get involved in comedy drama, didn't throw shade, didn't entertain beefs. But when it came to Kevin Hart, that silence didn't last. In a recent interview, Eddie finally spoke out, and while his tone was light, the message underneath was sharp. When asked about Kevin Hart supposedly breaking his stand-up box office record, Eddie didn't flinch.
Kevin Hart broke your stand-up box office record.
What record did he break?
He said he broke some record of your box office sales for stand-up.
I don't know. What did he break?
He followed it up by reminding everyone that Raw is still the #1 box office concert film in history, and that he hadn't even been on stage in 27 years. Then, almost jokingly, he said, "Now I gotta get back on stage, because I want that record back, Kevin." It was playful, sure, but if you know Eddie, you know when he says something like that, even with a smile, he means it. So what does this have to do with Kevin being scared of Katt Williams? A lot more than it seems, because Eddie Murphy, a comedy legend, an icon, the standard for greatness in the game, just openly questioned Kevin Hart's crown. And it didn't come out of nowhere. Kevin has spent years building a clean-cut, ultra-marketable brand. But what happens when someone like Eddie Murphy, who knows the game inside out, starts questioning the credibility of that rise? It opens the door for people to dig deeper, and that's where Katt Williams comes in. See, Katt didn't just throw shade, he burned the whole house down. In multiple interviews, Katt has accused Kevin Hart of being an industry plant, someone who was fast-tracked, protected, and elevated not because of talent, but because of willingness. Willingness to play along, willingness to avoid real topics, willingness to stay silent about the people pulling the strings.
Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No, we've never heard of that before that person or since that person. What do you think a plant is?
It was a brutal takedown, and it came with receipts. Katt even claimed that for a 5-year stretch, every movie that landed on Kevin Hart's lap had first been on his, but only if he agreed to take out the step and fetch it roles, or overtly gay scenes he wasn't comfortable doing. When he said no, the roles went straight to Kevin. Now combine that with Eddie Murphy's comment, that Kevin's so-called record doesn't even exist, and suddenly, Kevin's legacy doesn't look so untouchable. It looks like something built on timing, connections, and silence. And maybe that's why Kevin avoids Katt. Not because Katt is dangerous in the traditional sense, but because he knows too much. He's seen the contracts, he's heard the pitches. He's said no where Kevin might have said yes. This isn't just about records or fame anymore. It's about credibility. And in a world where power protects itself, the last thing Kevin Hart wants is for Katt Williams, or Eddie Murphy, to keep talking. Eddie Murphy's remarks about Kevin Hart might have sounded casual on the surface, but they didn't come from nowhere. When a veteran like Eddie publicly questions someone's achievements, it forces people to start reevaluating what they thought they knew. In Kevin's case, that evaluation goes far beyond box office numbers. It pushes us to ask, how did Kevin get here? Who was around him during that rise? And what choices did he make behind the scenes? One of those choices was hosting a party in Las Vegas back in 2010, a party that's now being looked at with fresh eyes. The event was held in honor of Diddy. Kevin Hart was front and center, not as a guest, but as the host.
We want to thank you. Come here. Don't sit on the bed at night. No homo. No, just don't get close to the bed. Don't get close. But it's just like, yo, we want to thank you for hosting the thing, man. It's been a pleasure. You didn't have to do it, and you did it.
No. I definitely didn't have to do it. I definitely didn't have to.
At the time, it was just seen as a regular celebrity celebration. But footage from that night has recently resurfaced, and in today's context, it's deeply uncomfortable. In one clip, Kevin is seen in a small bathroom surrounded by several women in bikinis. The lighting is low, candles are burning, and the atmosphere feels chaotic. At one point, one of the women's hair catches on fire. Kevin and others laugh. It's treated as a joke, no real concern, no reaction to stop the danger. Just laughter, music, and more filming.
Just see what you... Yeah. The water was deeper, though.
Came up, flame was gone. At that time, I was in panic. I had asthma. It was a difficult situation.
Another clip shows Kevin speaking directly to a camera crew. He casually warns them not to film near a particular spot in the room where Diddy is sitting. He doesn't explain why, but in the background, the camera briefly captures part of the area he's referencing. And that's what triggered discussion online. People began asking, why was Kevin deflecting attention from that part of the room? What exactly was going on at this party? The concern isn't about proving guilt, it's about proximity. Kevin wasn't some unknown at the party. He was actively involved. He wasn't forced to be there. He organized, entertained, and guided the energy of the night. He laughed when things got dangerous. He seemed fully comfortable. And that becomes relevant because of what we now know. In 2024, federal investigators accused Diddy of operating what they call freak-offs, private invitation-only parties where drugs, exploitation, and trafficking allegedly occurred. Multiple lawsuits and witness accounts claim that these parties were more than just wild celebrity hangouts. They were part of a much darker pattern. Kevin Hart has not been accused of any crimes, and there is no evidence placing him in the illegal acts being investigated. But that's not the point here. The point is, he was there, in the room, on camera, laughing, hosting, all while the energy around him was getting more and more unhinged. So when people ask why Kevin seems nervous or avoids certain questions today, this is why. The footage exists. The timeline exists. The connections are real. And when confronted by paparazzi about that connection to Diddy, Kevin didn't clear the air.
Hey Kevin, when you hosted for Diddy, did you catch any baby oil?
When I hosted for Diddy?
Yeah. Nah?
You asking the wrong person the wrong question.
That evasiveness only fueled the suspicion, because silence, when paired with visual evidence, makes people assume you have something to hide. And maybe that's what Eddie Murphy was alluding to when he pushed back on Kevin's public image. Not just questioning his achievements, but the foundation they were built on. After the footage from that Vegas party began circulating online, people started revisiting other moments in Kevin Hart's career, and a pattern started to emerge. While he's often promoted as a hardworking, family-focused comedian, his personal history tells a different, more complicated story. In 2013, Kevin Hart was arrested in Los Angeles for driving under the influence. According to reports, he was speeding and nearly collided with a tanker truck. Police said he showed objective signs of intoxication, and Kevin later admitted publicly that he had been drinking and made a poor decision.
The cop comes over. Cop's like, license and registration, please. So Mike go, Buck, where's the registration for the cop? You know, he's got this African accent, right? Buck go. Man, you better get the fuck out of here. Stop talking to me, Mike. I don't know this shit. I don't know nothing out, man. Just talk to the cop.
Then came the 2017 cheating scandal. Kevin had been married to Eniko Parrish for just over a year when a video surfaced online that appeared to show him in a compromising situation with another woman in Las Vegas. The situation became even more serious when it was revealed that someone had allegedly tried to extort him using the footage. Kevin eventually posted a video apologizing to his wife and kids, saying, "I made a bad error in judgment." Eniko later confirmed during a Netflix documentary that she was pregnant at the time the cheating occurred. And then there's his history of controversial jokes, especially those related to the LGBTQ+ community. Old tweets and stand-up clips from the late 2000s resurfaced in 2018 when he was announced as the host for the Academy Awards. Backlash quickly followed. Critics said the jokes were homophobic, and when Kevin initially refused to issue a new apology, the pressure mounted. Eventually, he stepped down from hosting the Oscars and issued an apology via social media. None of these incidents happened in isolation, and in each case, the response followed a familiar pattern: denial or deflection at first, followed by a delayed acknowledgement after the public caught on. These weren't just bad luck moments. They were high-risk choices made by someone who often appears more concerned with controlling narrative than addressing real consequences. And that's where the concerns really start to add up. Because whether it's a late-night party with questionable optics or a PR crisis following a scandal, Kevin has developed a reputation for only stepping up when there's no other option left. It's a reactive pattern, not proactive. What's even more important is the kind of environments Kevin continued to place himself in. Circles with powerful people who now face serious allegations. Friendships with individuals like Diddy, who is under intense scrutiny for disturbing claims about his private events and business dealings. Again, Kevin hasn't been accused of any crimes, but his name keeps coming up in conversations about silence, protection, and proximity to power. It's not about whether he broke the law. It's about the circles he chose, the moments he stayed silent, and the choices that seem more strategic than accidental. In any case, Katt Williams didn't hold back in his 2024 sit-down with Club Shay Shay. It wasn't just another interview. It was a detailed breakdown of everything that's been bothering him about the comedy industry, and Kevin Hart was front and center in that discussion. For Katt, the real issue was the speed of Kevin's success, and how quickly the industry embraced him without the usual struggle that stand-up comics are known for.
In 15 years in Hollywood, no one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show, there being a line for him ever getting a standing ovation at any comedy club.
In his view, Kevin's career didn't follow the traditional path. While most comedians spend years grinding in clubs, building a following city by city, Kevin seemed to bypass that grind altogether.
He already had his deals when he got here. Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No.
Williams pointed to inconsistencies in Kevin's backstory, especially the version highlighted in his Netflix documentary with Chris Rock. That series emphasized Kevin's East Coast comedy roots. But Katt questioned how that timeline could coexist with Kevin's presence in Los Angeles, a city he would have had to be working in simultaneously if he'd truly made it from the bottom up. So how, simultaneously, was he here in Los Angeles doing the same thing? Katt asked. It didn't happen. The term plant came up, not as a joke, but as a serious accusation. In Katt's words, a plant is someone who's placed into the system, given opportunities that others aren't, and then marketed as if they earned it all on their own. From Katt's perspective, Kevin's career didn't add up. The roles, the deals, the speed. It didn't feel like the natural result of years of stand-up grit. It felt like something handed over, and Katt wanted answers. Kevin Hart has responded to this kind of criticism before. In a 2014 interview on Oprah Prime, he was asked directly about the myth of overnight success. Hollywood has a way of making everything seem like an overnight success, he said. But I've had 18 years in the business. I put in my time. I got dues that have been paid and paid again and paid one more time after that. He explained that he'd been studying comedians like Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock for years, building a strategy based on the mistakes and wins of those who came before him. His house, he said, was filled with images of comedy legends, a daily reminder of the level he wanted to reach. "What separates me is my drive," Kevin told Oprah. "My drive is other people's success." The problem for Katt was that none of that addressed the deeper issue, not about whether Kevin worked hard, but about who helped him skip the lines most comedians never get to skip. As the conversation around Kevin Hart's rise got louder, Katt Williams took it further. He didn't just question Hart's timeline, he went after the entire structure of the entertainment industry. He dismissed the idea that Hollywood was a fair space where talent naturally rises. In his eyes, there were gatekeepers, real ones, and Kevin Hart, he claimed, had become one of them. To explain what he meant, Katt pointed to Kevin's connection to Tiffany Haddish.
They tell you that there's no gatekeepers, but we keep seeing the same people open the gate. Didn't Kevin open the gate and let Tiffany in? Ain't he now opening it up for don't such and such?
While Tiffany is now a household name, thanks to her breakout role in Girls Trip and her hosting gig on Saturday Night Live, her journey wasn't always glamorous. She's publicly talked about being homeless, living in her car, and trying to survive while pursuing comedy. In a 2018 Vanity Fair interview, Haddish said that it was Kevin who helped her during that time. They were both performing at the Laugh Factory when Kevin noticed she was sleeping in her car. He gave her $300 and told her to get a hotel room. Then he told her to sit down, write out her goals, and work toward them step by step. She took the advice seriously. She booked a motel, wrote out her plans, and slowly started checking them off, including roles she wanted, people she dreamed of working with, and long-term goals. But Katt Williams wasn't impressed with the fairy tale version of her rise. In an appearance on V103's Frank and Wanda in the Morning, he questioned whether Tiffany Haddish had really earned her title as a top comedian. "Haddish has been doing comedy since she was 16, he said. "You can't tell me your favorite Tiffany Haddish joke. Why? Because she hasn't done a tour yet. She hasn't done a special." He didn't just challenge her output. He questioned whether she writes her own material, whether she can hold an audience for an hour, and whether the industry was simply using her image without giving her time to grow into the role she was handed.
Trip, did you think she wrote Girls Trip Goofball?
Right.
Or do you think that was already a script and they handed it to her?
The conversation got heated when he went on to say, "They all ready to down Monique and up somebody who has showed them Girls Trip. Did you think she wrote Girls Trip Goofball? Or do you think that was already a script and they handed it to her?" Host Wanda Smith defended Haddish, saying people loved her because she was real. Katt hit back again. Since when did being real become a marketable product? He even implied that part of her popularity came from her openness about being attracted to white men, specifically Brad Pitt, and said that helped her navigate an industry still rooted in old power structures. Katt closed the conversation by pointing out that other black female comedians, ones who had been in the game for decades, were still being overlooked. "Luenell, Miss Laura, Melanie Camarco," he said. "These women put in work, but you don't see the industry lining up for them." Kevin Hart didn't stay quiet after that. He appeared on The Breakfast Club with Tiffany Haddish and went on the offense. "You had the shot," Kevin said, addressing Katt. "You were set up to be the star, but you didn't show up to work. You missed promo shoots. You missed opportunities. You became a risk." He called Katt out for attacking someone else's success instead of taking accountability for how his own career went off track.
"I have forever been the humble guy. I have time to not be humble today. I have time to fact check everything he said because the world of Katt Williams is a fictional world."
What made Katt's criticism different this time wasn't just the names he called out. It was how detailed he got about the deals that never happened, and why. He claimed that nearly every comedy film Kevin Hart was in for 5 straight years had been offered to him first. According to Katt, He declined because he didn't like the scripts. He didn't want to play into old stereotypes or accept roles that included what he called overtly homosexual humor. "I'm not against comedy," he said, "but I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm not going to play something I don't believe in just to get ahead." He said his suggestions for edits were often ignored, and the roles went straight to Kevin Hart, who took them without changes. That comment tied directly into something Katt had mentioned years before: the belief that some black male actors are pressured into wearing dresses for comedic effect as a kind of rite of passage. The theory isn't new, and it's been discussed before by actors like Dave Chappelle. Katt talked about it again during an interview promoting Scary Movie 5. Around that time, Kevin Hart had just done a sketch on Saturday Night Live where he appeared in a dress. To Kevin, the sketch was just comedy.
You know what? I was actually one of those comedians that said, no, I wouldn't wear a dress. There's no way.
Dave Chappelle and I said that they tried to make him wear a dress.
You have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross. I know what they are. You got to know that you're a brand. You need to protect your brand at all times.
And then when proposed with the opportunity of what I felt was funny, nobody made Martin put on a dress and nobody made Tyler Perry. It was a choice that I made.
To Katt, that moment symbolized a bigger issue. Not the dress itself, but what he saw as a willingness to go along with industry norms, even if they reinforced stereotypes. That, in his view, was the real divide between him and Kevin. Katt believes he was sidelined because he didn't play the game. He didn't take the roles. He didn't keep quiet. And because of that, he believes the industry moved forward without him. Kevin Hart, on the other hand, sees things differently. He views himself as someone who played smart, took every opportunity seriously, and worked non-stop to turn small chances into a major platform. Anyway, Katt Williams is not the only person who has called out Kevin Hart for his shadiness. Monique also recently dropped bombshells about how Kevin supposedly ditched her when she was going through some real rough times, facing the heat from big names like Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. And if that isn't enough to raise your eyebrows, there's talk that Kevin's been cozying up to both Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey to climb the Hollywood ladder. Back in 2021, there was this memorable episode on Kevin Hart's Comedy Gold Mines podcast, where he had the legendary Monique as his guest. They delved deep into Monique's life, her rise in the comedy scene, and where she stands today in her career. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Monique has had some long-standing issues with Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. And trust me, we'll get into that later, so hang tight. During their conversation, Monique opened up about the struggles her family faced, describing it as being up against the wall. It was then that Kevin Hart, being the stand-up guy he is, stepped in to offer his support. He expressed to Monique that she's like family to him. A mother, an aunt, a sister rolled into one. And Hart didn't just stop at comforting words, he took action. Now, Hart admitted he didn't really know Oprah Winfrey personally, but he promised Monique that he'd reach out to Tyler Perry. And he did just that. After a heartfelt conversation with Perry, Hart came back to Monique with some promising news. Perry was ready to bury the hatchet and move past the drama. Hart, being the voice of reason, urged Monique to do the same. He told her, "Let's leave all that negativity in the rearview mirror, Mo. We've got bigger things to accomplish together." But Hart's generosity didn't stop there. In a conversation with Shannon Sharp, Monique revealed that Hart not only offered emotional support, but also extended a professional hand. He proposed to partner with her and even offered to executive produce any project she wanted to bring to life. Monique recounted Hart's words, saying, "Mo, I talked to Tyler. He said he didn't want to revisit it, but I'll tell you what, let's move past that, Mo. Let's just do great things together. Don't even worry about it. Whatever you want to do, I will partner with you. I'll executive produce with you. You just let me know."
I want you to hear me, Kevin Hart. Let's move past that, Mo. Let's do some great things together. Don't even worry about it. Whatever y'all want to do, I will partner with you. I'll executive produce with you. You just let me know what you want to do.
She also spilled the beans about how Kevin came through big time, lending her a hefty sum of cash. And get this, She even returned it with interest. But here's where it gets juicy. After Hart promised to help her get her talk show back on track. Naturally, Monique was stoked, and who wouldn't be? Having Kevin Hart as a producer could skyrocket any project. So, she excitedly tells her producers in Endemol, her media production company, and they're all on board, thrilled at the prospect of working with such a big star. But, plot twist, 2 weeks later, Monique gets hit with some devastating news. Endemol drops the bombshell that Kevin Hart's manager, Dave Becky, gave them a ring to say that Kevin had cold feet. Monique picks up the phone, hoping for an explanation from Hart himself. And what does she get? A vague reassurance, "We'll talk Tuesday, don't worry about it," he says.
That's a miscommunication, and we're going to talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you right now, it's a miscommunication. That was 2 years ago. If you talk to him, I talk to him. I've never talked back to Kevin Hart again.
Fast forward 2 years and crickets. Monique hasn't heard a peep from Kevin since. But hold up, here come the armchair detectives. Some fans are crying foul, suggesting that maybe Kevin never intended to help Monique in the first place. And then there's the wild rumor mill spinning tales about Kevin selling his soul to the likes of Oprah and Tyler Perry. Supposedly, if he had lifted a finger to help Monique revive her career, it would have put his own career in jeopardy. In any case, Eddie Murphy just changed the entire conversation around Kevin Hart. When a comedy legend publicly questions your achievements, it's not just criticism, it's permission for everyone else to start digging. Because once you lose the respect of people like Eddie Murphy, there's no amount of box office numbers or social media followers that can get it back. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.